Hi, my name is Harry T, and welcome to Odejuma. Odejuma recognizes the magic of storytelling, from personal experiences to stories of adventure, from tales of resilience to finding joy in the simple things. This story seeks to inspire, entertain, and educate because there is power in the stories of everyday people, and these stories are worth telling. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Odejuma. I'm super excited to be back and I'm talking with someone I really love. I'm here with Ibimina Dominique Thompson. Hi Ibimina, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. What's up? What's up? What's up? It's an honor to be here. I like the podcast a lot and I care about Harry a lot. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm here with Ibimina, my Niger Delta sister. I, aren't you my Niger Delta sister? That was very shady.
I am Reverse Babes.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. Are we separate? I thought we were one
Yeah,
family. I
one
thought we were
family. We're one
one people.
family. Are you not part? Do you not want to be part of River State's Babes to the front?
Not very. I want to be. I like my whatchamacallit. I like my Delta
I
states.
love
I think
Delta
that is
States
where
too. Y'all bring out a lot of characters in this world. A man from Delta State will drive you insane, but also
I am screaming. I am screaming. I can neither confirm nor deny. But I'm here to talk to. But I'm super excited to be, talking with you. Because I'm just very, I feel very proud of you when I see your work. That spans from all forms of art forms, from film to theater. You're now even DJing or learning how like you're doing everything. So I'm just very curious and excited to just go into this conversation because I don't think we've spoken in depth about your journey as a creative. So can you just talk a little bit about Ibimina? Where did this love for the arts come from for Ibimina?
yeah, I mean, gosh, I feel like every Black child, no matter where you're from in the diaspora, it starts in church, which is ironic, like the nature of what my work gives. My mom was a Sunday school teacher, and my grandmother was like part of like Sunday schools. My dad was like in his corners, and I remember as a child, like when we would do church plays, like I would always love like doing it, right? So Parable of the Sower is like my earliest memory of like my first play. Or when they were like, oh, doing the birth of Jesus and like being like three wise men, like that was like when I was like, oh my God, I love this. And so then like, in 2014, I moved to America because like at the time it wasn't safe for me to be in Nigeria. And I remember I went to Montfort Academy. That was my high school. And I was in this class called Children's Theater. So at first, I hated the class because I was like, my friend, I'm not a child. Like, I'm literally 13, going on 14. Why am I in Children's Theater? I should be in biology, because like, I think every African family tells you to do STEM. And I was like, very like STEM minded at the time. I still like have a passion for like science and tech, but that's a different conversation. And so I signed up for this. I'm going to the class, and it turns out we're putting on this musical for like the elementary, middle schoolers at our school. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is kind of fun. I don't know. We'll see. Like, this is my first time like in an American high school. I'm 13, going on 14. It's the heap of Ebola, all that. And so I do the class and we get to the performance, and I'm like actually enjoying our rehearsals, enjoying the rehearsals. And the person who was playing the lead role got in school suspension. And I was like, well, I don't want to be the paper boy anymore. So I went to the theater teacher and I was like, hey, do you still need someone to play Dandy Dan? Because like I would happily step in for Miss America if she cannot fulfill her duties. And then he was like, of course. And so this was in Florida, mind you. In Florida, one thing a lot of people don't know is Florida has a very, very competitive like arts scene, especially in high school. Like
Ah,
you compete for like theater competitions, match plays, musicals. Like it's a whole thing from like local to state to like you could go to nationals if your school chooses to do it.
yeah.
I remember even in boarding, like, because I was also at a boarding school and like in theater, like my early days in high school. Then the first musical I did when it was a main stage and not a class was Beauty and the Beast. And the story of how I got into Beauty and the Beast was that like I was on my way to junior varsity basketball practice and I ran into somebody on the second day of tryouts. And so I found out Beauty and the Beast auditions was the same day as the last day of like JV tryouts because my school is a huge basketball school. And so instead of going to basketball, I went to Beauty and the Beast auditions and like skipped my swimming thing. And then I changed my after school PE credit and I was doing that. And theater was a little hard because like I felt like I didn't fit in with a lot of kids for a bit, but like I still made some friends. And then there was this regional awards show called the Dr. Phillips Applause Awards, Dr. Phillips Applause Awards. And I'd been doing ensemble roles in school, and I won my first applause award for honorable mention as an ensemble member in who was that in Beauty and the Beast. And I remember I was the baker and the spoon person and fork. Then I also went and did like, Barnum and all these other musicals in school. Like I was always like ensemble supporting till like my senior year where I played like one lead role. It was Benny in The Heights and Sebastian in Little Mermaid. But again, like those felt like a little bit like lead supporting roles. I don't know if they're really leads, but like, hey, shout out to the musical theater girlies. I'm not gonna cover y'all's like bag. And then by like my junior year, we got a new theater director, and she was a Black woman. Her name was Roberta Emerson, and she was like in her process of starting a fine arts conservatory. Because also a thing like people don't know about me is like before I got into like acting, like for training, I actually was training to be an opera singer in my high school.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, my school had a fine arts conservatory. And the first time I auditioned for the music conservatory, I did not get in because I went and sang Great is Thy Faithfulness. I don't, Nigerian opera style. I don't know what I was getting into, but I was like, you know what, honey, I'm eating it. And then I didn't get it. And so then I tried going again for like, the other choir, the higher choir, because I was in concert choir. Then they were like, okay, select choir. And also like, again, like I hadn't been trained in like singing, like trained. I was just like, let me just go where I can sing. Cause I just liked singing. It was hard. Parents weren't here. Like I was sticking out in school. All the Africans were like in sports. So for me personally, I was like, well, I want to still perform. Moral of the story is we keep going, and then my choir teacher put me in contact with a private voice teacher my sophomore year, and that's when I also started competing in the vocal like solo and ensemble world in America and like just traveling because also I had learned that like instead of doing sports like I could use this to get into college. So at the time I wasn't like this would be my major. This is just something I would use to get into college so I could study being a doctor, all that cool. Then by junior year, when we got Roberta, she had changed the conservatory to like it being, we had a theater one. And so it was either musical theater acting or you did full vocal performance with the classical music side. And we would be in school till like 4 p.m., then go to rehearsal till like 6, 7, 8 p.m. at night, then back in our doors by like 10 p.m. to like do homework. Like it was rigorous. And mind you, I was the class president by senior year at this time. But junior year, I joined our musical theater acting conservatory. By senior year, I wrote my first play, which was called Talking to God. And it was like my senior capstone. And it was about basically a person who was struggling. It was about sexual abuse in like the church. Because I dealt with like similar things in like school in
Mm,
Nigeria. And then also I had auditioned for a bunch of schools.
I'm sorry about
Oh,
that.
it's okay. It's okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'd auditioned for like a bunch of schools. I auditioned for 10 schools. Actually, my mom came with me to Unified Auditions in New York because for those who don't know, if you're gonna go like the full BFA acting route, yeah, honey, I know. Full BFA acting world, like you go to Unified Auditions, you're going from school to school to school. You're probably dropping into a school here, going there. Like I was on the pathway to like drama school. One of the funniest stories I even have from those auditions is I was supposed to audition for Juilliard my senior year of high school for their acting program. But then I was like, I have Rutgers at the same time. And Rutgers had a good, like,
Mm.
university had a great STEM, like finance. I was like, I might have to cancel my Juilliard audition. So I canceled my Juilliard audition the day and went to go audition for Rutgers instead. But like, my mom came with me to my college auditions, and I remember even when we were there, it was like a big mind fuck because like I realized I was the only international student auditioning for these schools, and like other kids could ask their things about the dance program and other things, but I would be like, so what's your experience with international students, right? Like, or do y'all have students from around the world? Like, it was the first time where I was starting to pick up on the fact that like I always knew I was different in America, but like Unified Auditions was like, even in this place that is inclusionary, I feel very singular in my experience. And after auditions, I got into like 5 schools. I was hell bent on going to New York instead, but my teacher was like, I don't think you should go to New York. Then I got waitlisted for another school, SUNY Purchase. And It was between either, University of Minnesota, SUNY Purchase, Roosevelt, Chicago Performing Arts in Chicago, and Pace University for musical theater. And then there was a school in Florida called UCF that I had gotten accepted to on the spot. So I was like, okay, I know I don't want to stay in Florida because of the politics, but like, I also know I love to live in New York because I dreamed of being there. And I ended up picking U of M because I thought it would make sense for my family. And also was like, it would just make sense, like in case because also I was on the mindset of like, if I drop out of acting, like I want to go be able to study like pre-med, or pre-law. At the time I was considering global major studies. And so I got into U of M, and so we're happy. By my freshman year, I was still having a hard time because I was also like, there was 3 Black students in our company. And like, shout out to my company members from class of 2022. It was definitely hard because like we did not have a typical BFA acting experience. I auditioned for my first professional play called How It's Gonna Be, which was written by Jacoby Johnson and H. Adam Harris, because I was crewing a show called Seven Guitars. And my friend Eterania saw the audition and pulled me to the side and was like, you should audition for this. And I was like, well, I'm in school and we're not allowed to work our freshman year because they want you to focus on school. And I was also like, well, I can't do that. Like, I'm not the person for this. Like, I don't know why I would be the one to audition. I'm scared as hell. I go to this audition, panicking, nervous, and I get a call back. Cause also I was like, I don't know who I was gonna read for. This is the first play I actually did in Minneapolis was a world premiere. Now it's like gone on to play in other places. Jacoby's living. I love it. It's great. But I audition, I get the call back. I go to callbacks, then I book the show. And from How It's Gonna Be, it was like a lot of like different interests from different Twin Cities theaters, like, oh wait, weren't you that like like all that. Go back to sophomore year, I'm just chilling. I auditioned for a musical called 12 Angry Men the Musical at the end of my sophomore year, thinking nothing of it. But then I had like an algebra final that I couldn't get out of. So I was like, hey, I might have a final this day. Like, is it okay? But then we also went into the pandemic, and then the pandemic, like, canceled a lot of theater for the time being. And then during the pandemic was when I then started writing in college more. So I wrote Nigeria is Alive, which was a response to NSARS and police brutality, and like raised some funds for like my program and for a friend of mine who had passed away. So I donated the money to his family to like, donate the scholarship and whatever. Do Nigeria is Alive. I raised some money for NSARS relief, like $300, send it back home. And I'm like, okay, I like this writing thing. Like it's pretty much a vibe. Junior year comes around, summer of junior year in 12 Angry Men, the musical, I'm doing it. No. I did a Shakespeare apprenticeship in Winona where I played Juliet's mom and then Juliet because we did an episodic version of Romeo and Juliet. Then from Great River, I had done 12 Angry Men, the musical, like around my junior year, senior year, because I also had to stay an extra semester. But then like I took a break from school to transition. Junior year rolls around, break into musical theater for the first time here in Minneapolis. I've done musical theater and artistry as well, like different places in the city, like this is all pre-transition, mind you. So in all these places, like a thing that was recurring for me in like undergrad was I was going to school, doing like, that's why I also ran into ballroom by like my junior, senior year. And then also from ballroom, whenever I wouldn't be at a ball, I would then be also going to rehearsal to paint the picture. A full-time student doing all this, and it was way too much. And then by like 2022, still doing the plays, the musicals. Then when I filed asylum, that was when like I like stopped doing things professionally because you can't work for 150 days. And I was like, well, I still need to fundraise for my life. And also to pay off my lawyer fees. So I did a fundraiser where I performed my solo show, Bad Africans, that I to be O'Shea, I'm artist in a F fucked up world. And also like I think that was like my foray of like, I don't know if I want to exists in many of these like white centered Twin Cities theater spaces. Cause I was working in a lot of rooms where I was the only like person, like not only the only like person of color, but for me especially was like I'm the only Black person here. Like when I look across the table, when I look like just the behind the scenes team, I'm not seeing Black people there. Like I'm like, okay, sure, the cast, okay, we all auditioned, I got picked, cool, whatever. But then I'm like, I'm looking across the table and I can't even find like a Black costume designer right now here. There's not even like a Black woman who might be touching my hair. Like, and for me, it was odd because in Nigeria, I was just surrounded by like Blackness as norm and also as excellence too. And that was on a project. I was actually doing my Guthrie debut where I was like, oh my God, like I don't know if I want to really be as tokenized in the.
That was a good Guthrie debut, by the
Thank
way. If I
you.
can add, I think that you were that was in Little Prince, and I think you were fantastic. in that play. So just want to give you your flowers there. I have a little bit of curiosity around. I know you had talked about your childhood a little bit, but also just wanted to just talk about how you've described your trajectory professionally, and and what is hitting me is the fact that you've done a lot in your, but also realizing that, okay, this is a very white centered industry, and maybe I need to take a break from that. But it's something that you love and you do so well. How are you navigating that piece, having to not be in the mainstream theater space after having, like, for example, like I said, such a great debut at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis?
I think with like mainstream theater space, it's like two things of there's like it's a very good question. This is a good question. Um I would not be opposed too much from like doing shows at like some mainstream theaters. I think it's like it's two things. One, like I'm thinking of like the best way to voice all this at the same time. One, like some just weren't paying enough, like for the amount of stress and trauma you go through. I was just like, I'm gonna go corporate because frankly, I don't think y'all are paying the dolls enough. And we'll talk about protecting the dolls and paying the dolls another time. And two, I would be interested in still auditioning for like mainstream like theaters and like what plays they're doing. I think the question I have for mainstream theaters is like, are you like ready to question like how you put trans women on stage? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not lost on me like that I did so many things. I think I'm still processing the fact that I've done so many things on my resume. I think that like when I go into these rooms, like I don't have the expectation of there will be dolls there, to be honest. It's more so I'm like, I have a different view of it now where it's like, oh, I'm the only one here. And while this is supposed to be uplifting or create a new avenue, it is very depressing, frankly. And also, like, again, like I would be open to doing stuff with mainstream theaters. I also would love to like do stuff in New York, to be honest. Like I have a goal to like move there before like I turn 30, or Chicago at least, to like audition there and get back on like doing plays mostly, just cuz like the concept of musical theater and like vocal feminization is something that like I'm personally like I love to sing, but like I don't know if I want to sing in this musical in that way. And also I've moved my energy to just kind of like trying to self-produce and submit for grants and festivals, like acting wise and just building the worlds I want to see, because I just felt like, especially one thing Asylum had inspired me with, and like that's why I built Bad Africans and written Love Is Life, was that like I got tired of wishing for these rooms to exist and waiting for these scenes to catch up. And I was just like, well, I want a world that looks like this, so I'm going to get it. I don't know
Mm,
how. I'll do my best and what I think is my best at the time, but I'm going to get it. Like literally through different projects, introductions, I was like meeting people and I was like, okay, like this world is coming about like in its own forms, and like it's still challenging. It still like hurts sometimes because like also for trans women, like even for like roles that we get called in for, like I know that I'm not gonna get called in for Little Women, right? Like I would love to do Little Women. I would love to play Joan or like Amy in Little Women, but like it's the thing of like these institutions still do not see me as a woman, if that makes sense, and still have that complex bias within them that they're still learning and unearthing. Because I noticed that with like
yeah.
white trans women, they can be feminine, but like when you transition, you're still transitioning under this standard for Black women, that like you're going from a world that you didn't know to like now entering it like full force. So like, yeah, like I even had somebody ask me if I would be comfortable playing a man. Like it's not like it was a cast of
Wow.
women playing like doing the show. No, they were like, would you be comfortable still like reading for a gay male like role after they knew I was transitioning? So I'm like, if I'm getting those questions from the actors who might be trying to make work, and like these aren't white actors, mind you, like, and then I like, what can I expect from the institutions? Do you know what I mean? Like, how am I supposed to feel safe? Because even when we step outside of like the big thing of, okay, there's trans women like working in behind the scenes here and there, and like to my knowledge, I can name like 3 dolls who have transitioned. like medically and are working in the scene. Like the person who wrote and directed Close to Home, Sharifa Yasmin. There's an amazing makeup and hair designer who's also making a Naked Stage debut, B. And then I would say me. Those are like three I can name, like medically transitioned and like still doing things in the mainstream theater space. And yet, like when I look at that, and then on top of it, then analyzing how many women are in this, and then you're also looking at the statistics because my father was in finance, like even my other gay dad is in finance. My other gay father, Aries, has an MBA. Shout out to Donna Aries, I love y'all. But like it's the literal mathematics of it. I think the math of life has always made sense to me because like in a world full of chaos and like fear, kind of have to I lean on like numbers sometimes. The numbers are actually scary because also there's not that many black girls being cast, right? So then you're looking at like black cis women not being cast in as many like leading roles, and then out of that you're also looking at the context of like, hey, who are the favorites? Who are those who played the game that the institutions have tokenized? To be quite honest with you, and how are they still like going back and feeling like sane, to be honest. And so when you look at that world, and also for me personally as a black trans girl, like I love having autonomy over my hair in the industry. That is something that isn't as common. And so like even my approach to how I view natural hair on stage, like or partake in different roles, like that plays a factor for me. And sometimes like a lot of places would not be ready to like spend as much time having conversations. And I was even blessed that with like Close to Home, the hair conversation, I was like, that was directed by a trans woman. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, to sum it all up, mainstream theater is something I would be interested in. It's just more so like trying to navigate, like, is this something that I want to be if I have to be half of myself?
Mm,
Or if I have to like move away from that because I even working in corporate world, like because I work in hospitality for a hotel. Shout out to my hotel and my job. It's definitely a thing of like I can go into work and be my full self. And like it's another part of my brain that I have to turn on to like protect myself. And like when I do theater, like I guess because I did not see it as much of a corporate entity slash corporation, but it's still a job, right? You still take it seriously. I had a lot more to learn and catch up with of like being in a creative space, taking it seriously, but then also like, what is that way to show up professionally, right? What does that word mean? And what does it mean to see like the standard shift in front of you in real time? Of like other folks can do this, but like I still have to be like every day the best here, you know? So in ways
but
I've made that like
would you say that would you say that that was a reason why you transition, or I don't know, did you want to transition a little bit early on? Did that make you take a pause, just figuring out all these challenges in the industry, or was that an encouraging factor for you to transition? Like, what, because I know you talked about early on working pre-transition and working after you transition, or it's still a journey, but
yeah,
the the before and now, how would you say that, what was the catalyst
like for my
for either doing it
yeah.
like sooner? Did working professionally in the theater space or in the art space have anything to do with that process?
Yeah. If I'm being honest, because like this is the Odejuma podcast where we can be 100% honest.
Yeah.
Yes, it hindered my transition for a
Mm,
while. I actually had thought because I started out like transitions just being non-binary, and I was like, enjoying like you
mm,
met me when I was even more NB, like Little Prince days. Like, I was just at NB running around, like my little skirt, having my little facial hair. Like some days I have a good tea, some days people would see me bald, and I was like, God, this little child has so much going on there. I think that I had definitely slowed my transition because I was like, I kept getting cast as like black men, which was exciting. And also the hard part for me, like playing black men, was I was like, okay, I'm playing black men, but this isn't how I see black men. This is how y'all see black men. And a lot of the black male characters were either always very strong or very, very angry men, or like there was an absence of heart and humanity in all the things that these men were going through. And so like for a while, like and also I had a lot of teachers who were telling me you would be a great leading man. You'd be a great leading man. And when I would try like leading lady roles in college or even monologues. Cause I had a teacher, I went up to him and I was like, I want to do Calpurnia and Julius Caesar. And he was like, okay, fine. Like, let's try Calpurnia and Julius Caesar. Like, there were little moments where I was like, okay, like the women of Shakespeare definitely are like somebody that I like, were definitely catalysts as well that were like helping me push away from like, I don't want to be perceived as a man on stage anymore. And I also don't want to play men. Right. But I was like, no, like I'm pretty sure like this is a good thing, this is the right thing. Like I had a different ball game in my head. I was trying to be Simba in Lion King while enjoying Nala's songs, you know? I was on a different mental trajectory. And like, I think also we should talk about like transitioning as safety because at least for me, when I was non-binary in many ways, like I think ballroom was my biggest like theatrical catalyst for transitioning. But the nature of the industry itself, like taught me like practicing cis, like being perceived as a cis man's like privilege in the world and like still gave me like a spot to like be able to like still be my non-binary self, right? But I was like, oh, I would always joke and be like, oh, this is like drag for me because I'm going to go play a like cis straight man or like a cis gay man, but I'm not a man, you know? Eventually I was like, okay, this kind of drag is actually getting tiring on my spirit. And ballroom was really what was the catalyst. That was the real like, because it's a culture, right? And like it's a movement, it's a lifestyle. And within that culture, I learned like a new sense of theatricality that like pushed me to be like, no, I could be a black trans woman and could be fine in this space and this industry. Because I also saw other black trans women doing it, like Naomi Stewart, who was here for my show at the Wiseman, and we had our talk back. Like Naomi was really somebody I was like, if she's doing it and she's doing the plays, playing Beneatha, Lady Anne, like working behind the table, then okay, why not? I should be able to do it. And I also saw so many dolls like living their lives, like my sister Mame, who's a really amazing like political organizer and like founder of Believe What's Possible, or like my other sister Scarlett, who was going to school for fashion, right? It was still hard. Like you can never like shake that thing of like, I'm the only trans woman here, let alone the only trans woman of color, like visibly here in this room. And yeah, like theater in many ways like stopped me from transitioning because every time I would think about doing it, and also being in a Nigerian home too as well, because I can't just be like, it's the industry. Like my family was a huge like, you know, catalyst and also blockade at the same moment because they're like, well, what about your career? What about like these men that you want to play? Like you're looking at Troy and Fences, Corey, like all these different like male love interests that like, which the funny thing was I would never get cast as young men, mind you. I would get cast as old men a lot of the time. Or like men
Mhm.
that were larger than life. I was being cast like way older. Also for future, for everyone hearing this, the proper terminology is cast, not casted. I don't want to sound like an annoying person here, but but we're back.
Shout out to the theater education. We're here for
And
it.
like I had a teacher who drilled that into us. She's like, if I hear you say you were casted, I will lose it. And I was like, shout out Roberta, because I still say cast. But like I wasn't playing these young strapping leading men. I was playing like I remember auditioning for Hunchback and I was playing Quasimodo's father. And this man is like 10 years older than me. Or like even Little Prince.
Quasimodo's father is wild.
Like Little Prince, I'm a dancer and like I was playing the lamplighter, who was the oldest person there. Like, you know what I mean? And like there was just so many shows where I just was like, or like Great Expectations. When I understudied that, my understudy assignment was like Uncle Joe Gargery. And the guy playing Pip, like I was the youngest person in the apprentice class, not even 21. I was 20. And I'm like, you telling me I'm supposed to play like your like really? So it was like for me it was always like what is this world? Because I was like, why can't I play a young black boy who's like going through this stuff and has a lot of heart? Why am I playing like and I've never really said this out loud in public. Like a lot of my friends, I don't get asked this question, but like transitioning in the theater world is like a butterfly effect where like you can make your own world and avenue and give yourself a lot of peace and like I might get a little emotional saying this. Like, in many ways, some people don't transition because, yeah, you're getting that check. And to transition costs money. It's not cheap. Like, to cover the gender affirming hair, some people, if you choose to do laser, like, I knew for me, if I was going to start estrogen and T blockers, I'm so sorry. I was not going to do a facial hair. I couldn't handle it. I did not have that mental resolve. But, like, it was so interesting because like even in the acting industry I can tell you there's probably a lot of actors who might want to transition, specifically black actors, and they're scared. like for white actors, they still already engage in their own hardships. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to take that from my white trans colleagues, but they don't go through the same thing that we do because like for them, the gender standard and gender in itself and practice was built around white bodies. You have like white psychologists like Simone de Beauvoir, who was like talking about her feminist philosophy on womanhood. And she says like womanhood isn't something that you are like necessarily that like born. No one is born a woman. You become a woman. You know what I'm saying? This is a French psychologist. And she was saying this about how womanhood is something that is given to you in relation to the society that you exhibit or like that you exist in. And so when I think about that with theater, I think it's just always like I was always a writer. I grew up around a mom who was a writer. So for me, it was like, if I can't get the roles I want, and because I didn't have parents who were always like, oh, you can't do it. Like my parents were always nervous. Some days I made my parents even like way nervous that they even were prepared for it. To be honest, out of all their children, I chose to study acting. Everybody else in my family is a STEM major. Like they were gagged, you know, and I just had this mindset of like, well, if I can't get it from you, I'm gonna get it from somewhere. And I don't care where or how
Mm,
I gotta do it, but I want to be on the stage somehow. And I know I know I'm like, this is something else a little like vulnerable to say, but like, I know I'm a star and I'm tired of like being scared of what that power could do for me. Cause like I was in my senior year playing a principal role at the Guthrie. And before me, I did not know any Black non-binary actors that were out in non-binary, like so truly Black trans actors that were being given that role, like place to be principal. I was an understudy. I was a principal actor at 22. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
even with that place, I was running into the thing of like Black excellence. Like, is it for me? Is it against me? And like to keep up with that world at a younger age is very mentally exhausting. Like very, very tiring. And if I could go back in time, like I would have transitioned earlier and I would have like taken my time auditioning for like different roles. So, but that's about my
Now that you are on the other side of that, yeah, kind of like on the other side, now you've transited, you're living in your truth. How has that journey been like for you now? How are you navigating life, love, work, and everything in between as a Nigerian trans woman living in America who's Black, in the Twin Cities?
Gotta get it.
Who's seeking asylum, all these things that you hold. What is that like? What is that like for you?
Think like I'm still catching up to like what some of it could be because I think pre-transition, I did not expect myself to be able to work. I also thought that like I would not to be honest, I did not think like I'm talking to you from like my own apartment where I live alone and pay for it. Like when I was about to transition, I had a bit of a victim mindset to it that I think we had talked about it maybe in creating change when we were like grabbing sushi, but like we didn't go into it. But like it felt like something I had held in for so long that like those first few months, like it was very much like it's all just coming out. Like you can't really hide it. And like how is life for me work wise? Like work life, like it's good. I mean, it's definitely a mind fuck because like I think it taught me to raise the standards for my life and how I see myself. Truthfully speaking, like I did not think that I was as good of a writer pre-transition or like I didn't think I was as good of an actor. I also was like, I would always find little faults. I was always just in this thing of like always wanting to like be the best. And I was like, I always have something I can work on with myself. So transitioning's helped me accept it. So in regards to work, like, pretty good. Is it shocking many days? Yes. Like, do I have to deal with some transphobia too? Like, absolutely. Do I also have to deal with the fact that like in many spaces, like people are considering me a Black woman, especially with how I practice my femininity? It's like, okay, yeah, like it's like a deeper realization to the world that I knew, but I like was never a part of. Like I was always an ally for
Mm,
those. You know what I mean? I was an ally for the girls. And then now I'm one of the girls and I'm like, wow, I can't
that's real.
it's definitely a thing of like I have to be more conscious because I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't go into any space where it's like unsafe for me, whether it's emotionally, physically, socially. And like even when I try to go into some of those spaces where like it's not as safe for like folks like me or me, like, it's kind of like it's like teaches me to be a little more conscious um, and turn my brain on. That's something my gay dad Aries it would always tell me. My dad would always be like, Aries would be like, Mina, turn your brain on. Cause I'd be like, I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. There's stuff going down in my chest. Like, ah, and he'd be like, pause, turn your brain on. And I'm like, okay, wait, my brain's on. Okay, it's good. So it's a definite like reparenting and like regrounding. And like anytime I see a box, I just try to find ways to make my own elements. The box is paper, so I'm building origami around it. And like, yeah, that's I
That is
with love, I think
that.
it's it's interesting because I'm the first trans girl for a lot of people. Like, it's kind of similar. The funny thing is, it's very similar to how I felt in theater spaces and my work, and why I like spend time writing the things I do or like pursuing the things I want. Because like before, like being publicly trans and Nigerian, I wasn't the first one to talk about it. There was like, what was her name? Fola Francis was doing this before I did. Do you know what I mean? And since Fola Francis, like there's other trans Nigerian girls who have entered different spaces online. Margie King DJ, you got like Saint Lilith who does makeup. But like when I look at my industry of theater, like, or even acting for Black trans women and just stepping into the broader diasporic sense of it, like I was like, there's not a lot of us who are taking the time to write our own stories and either be in them or like produce them. And so it finds me in many places like wanting to just be a builder of worlds. I think it'll prep me for like, it's prepping me in a good way to be a mother someday to other young artists or kids someday, not now, actually, not in anytime soon. I cannot afford to have some kids, you know what I'm saying? Big sister general needs to finish her transition for her. So like her first 3 or 4 years. Give me a second. But like
Yeah.
it is a thing of what I run into with love and dating is like before I used to hate being the first. Like I hated being the first in the room or I hated being the only one in the room. And now it's taught me to kind of like have some peace with it. Because also truthfully, like some of the problems I was having with those rooms were champagne problems. You know, champagne versus prosecco. If you wanted prosecco, you can't come. If you want champagne and you complain that you got prosecco, like really, girl, like just drink it. Just drink the freaking drink. But like when I run into it in these worlds, like it's a lot of pressure because also stepping into like organizing nightlife. You know, last year was the first year I'd done Freaky Gal, Samamba Freaky Gal edition. Like I'd hit up Queen Effie. I was like, well, shout out to y'all. Hi, babes. I was like, hey, I want to do a pride party at Samamba. Why has no one come up to y'all and done this? And like even this year, doing Freaky Gal Pride again and like with my sister Mame and then being able to be like, hey, for this stage, I only want Black bodies on there. And I told security that. Like, it's interesting because it's like my existence raises the standards of what so many people expect for Black trans women. And that makes me sad and angry in so many ways. So it's a heartbreaking, joyful activity every day because I have to choose to not be
Mm,
in like a span of like less than 10 minutes and focus on the joy and the happy perspective of it, on the optimism of it, right? Because if I really spend time being on like, wow, I really think this guy is cute and like in so many ways I'm I'm like I'm the first trans girl he's dating and that makes me sad. If I really just indulge that feeling, like I would not be open to meeting people at all. Or like, oh, like I am really love this girl. She's really cute. All these things, but I'm the first Black trans girl she's been on a date with. Like, it's like statistically speaking, like, also how many dolls that came before me in Minneapolis that felt comfortable, like dating. For the dolls that came before us, it was a different ball game. Like we see Laverne Cox come to
mm.
the playing field a bit, Mother Laverne, and like I already said a bit about what I think. Like, why would she post that? And also just truthfully
Not the
told
not
her with care and love. But like
not the Larry Cox bit.
that interview, especially because like when I was younger, Laverne Cox was the first trans woman I had seen. Her, MJ Rodriguez, and what's her name from Pose Dark Skin, Angelica Ross. And then also Dominique too. Like that was on Pose as well. Like I loved the dolls of Pose, even India Moore. It was when that show came out when I was like high school, senior, freshman year, college. Like I loved the trans women there. And like it was a different life for the girls. If people like also like how many people would really feel comfortable like walking out with a trans woman in their arm, let alone a Black trans woman. And then also then looking into what they had to like do and accomplish to be in the spaces they were existing in. So like for me personally, like it teaches me to accept that the standard of my life has raised. And also in many ways, like I'm grieving because also like my homegirl slash big sister, General Mame, really taught me a lot. She's a Scorpio, so she taught me a lot about grief. And like there's so much like mourning that I have to do on a daily basis of like I'm putting away how I viewed myself in theatrical spaces. I'm putting away like the expectations that they had on me, like when I was just non binary and easier for them to understand, and putting away the fear of like a little bit of like intimacy and love. And like, I'm starting to just like, honestly, I just have to fucking trust myself or like fully dive in.
That is really beautiful to hear, actually. And I think that that is actually kind of evident in, because I did see Bad Africans. I saw Bad Africans. And shout out to you also for just even showing love to Fola Francis and keeping that memory alive. Because I knew them, they were an exceptional human being. So for you to do that was really awesome. So thank you for that also. And may they rest in peace. But Africans was also just a very beautiful it's a workshop play. I don't know what to call it yet. Maybe you can probably define it. But it was just very moving to see you talk about your experience as a Black trans person, Black trans woman, navigating your culture and being Black in America and being a trans woman and all these different pieces and holding that together. So talk to the folks about Africans for a bit and about where you see that work of art going in the future.
Yeah, so like Bad Africans was my way of first of all, thank you so much for that. And also I didn't know that you knew Fallout. That's like actually really, really beautiful. Like, oh my gosh, we should chat more about that, like outside of here. Cause like we're literally neighbors. Thank you. But like Bad
Yeah.
Africans, when I started writing that show, it's a solo show about like young African influencer, loosely based off some real events, maybe not, who knows. But like when I wrote that, and like I actually have some rewrites I need to get done today too, just for myself. I wanted to invite like especially other Black audience members into like the workshop process of a play, and especially like a new version of workshopping a play, right? Where people are looking at this solo show and they're like, oh, it could be a film, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. Like with that, I'm currently trying to like refine more thoughts because I know that it goes into so many different worlds. And right now I'm trying to rewrite it for it to like keep us in the digital realm. And most importantly, like I want to turn it into like a series too, truthfully, slash film. As like I enjoyed writing Love is Like. I have so many writing projects that I'm just like analyzing this play. I'm rewriting two different like classical plays right now for them to one is soundtrack to Chapel Row, and the other one is like soundtrack to like Amare and like some Tinashe music. So I'm trying to like play with that there. Yeah, we'll see. But like with Bad Africans, like I'm currently trying to write what I know and explore what I don't know. And I want to refine it to have it like be its own standalone solo show like by the end of the year. And, you know, either if not next year, in like 2 years, if not within the next year or like 2 years from now, I would like to do it as like it's as like a fully staged play and as a fully staged solo show. It's a really good play. I think like so many young Africans could do this play. It's now just trying to decide like if I want to write this. Because when I started writing this, I was just like non-binary and filing asylum. Now, as I continue writing it, I'm like, is this a non-binary story or is this now a Black trans girl story? And how is that like interesting? How does that like intersect with the historical facts that people learn about within it? So yeah, it's in its place of like its final stages of refinement, I think. And I want to do another like showing for folks soon. I'm just trying to find like
I will love that. I will love that. I want to see it again. It was so moving. There were parts of it that was so moving, parts of it that were very reflective of just the queer experience of someone who's just African and queer. So that was really beautiful to watch and witness. And I really hope you do it again. And when you do it again, I'll be there front row to see it.
I don't want people to think of OG as me. That feels like a lot of pressure on my personal life. So I'm trying to decide like how much do I like I need OG to be its standalone person because like yes it's based off my life but there's so much of that that is not my life and I'm kind of like moving it we're doing a bit of like instead of as much time jumps we're putting it in the present really just diving into like you know that Black Mirror effect almost of like maybe a little bit of like distortion and creepiness of like or like thought provokes of like, wow, how do I interact with Instagram, with these platforms, truthfully? Like, how do I want to exist on here as a Black queer body? And how does it deal with that in relation to what like our trans ancestors or black queer ancestors or African, like, you know what I mean? Like those ancestors that I mentioned,
Yeah.
like I really want it to be like not just like specifically African trans history from the continent. Now I want it to be like about like, because I think Black Americans are African people. You know, they are African descendants of slavery. That's just the term of it. And looking into ethnicity and writing that, I want that Africans to kind of carry this torch for like Black trans history. And I'm currently applying for like more grants to like produce it. So it's like I'm writing a play and I'm also trying to produce it by myself at the same time.
You got this. If there's anybody that can speak to the subject matter in the way that it should be spoken to, I'm confident in your ability to do that as well. And another project I saw was Love Is Like.
We did.
I saw it initially early on in the year, and now it's going to be at the Black August Queer Film Festival at Pillsbury Creative Commons on August 31st. So, do you want to talk about Love Is Like a little bit?
Yes, I love
What kind
that.
of inspired that?
So Love Is Like started with my friend Mariah Hansen and I. I wrote this film like out of sonnets in college because I was really interested in like, you know, pissing off white people who did not see black bodies in like foreign cinema and like classical work. And Mariah was, I would have to thank her so much for being like an amazing collaborator. She was the story editor, art direction, like helped me edit this, like not helped, she edited this film and I just like played the director role. Like I act not minimizing my efforts. Like I acted, I wrote it. I also was part of the producing team, and she was like that one woman editing team. Shout out to Olu Kende, who was second camera on the project. Ashe was like my assistant director. Yoni, movement director. Like there were a lot of folks who helped bring that world together. Zora, who helped with like music for it. So like Love Is Like was like my first way to like joining film because I just didn't like the scripts I was seeing for like film in Minnesota, if I was being honest. And also like I wanted to do things that were black and queer and trans. I did not want to play a black cis het man. Like, just because like sometimes you fall into that thing of it being like black straight people get to explore so many human details sometimes. And even then you're looking at it with like a grain of salt because in many ways, like those characters can also easily not be written with like as much humanity. So for me, it was like I wanted to play a queer character who was like still complex, still dope, and like also I wanted to make a silent film because people say I talk too much, which they're not wrong. And also making a silent film and like not wanting to like deal with audio, like just this was like a film that was made on no budget. And now I'm trying to like make more films with budget and like build a crew. And so yeah, Love Is Like was my first foray into like acting on camera. I was very scared. Mariah was like an amazing like director behind the scenes as well when I wasn't able to direct. Now it's just like in the pool doing the water scenes and like doing the bedroom scenes and dining table. Because that one was a lot about like what can image say when this isn't doing anything on the film. And also people don't read enough, so I wanted people to read, like truthfully. So I was like, well, y'all are going to read this silent film and watch it and enjoy it, and you will learn a lot
Mhm.
about self-love for yourself. And the interesting thing with that project is like I get misgendered both ways. Like because pre-transition people just are like, oh well, he, but I use they them pronouns. And then like even now standing here as like a woman, like it's interesting. Like I screened it at public functionary and there was somebody who was like, oh well he had, and I was like, oh that's wrong pronouns. I had to like nip that in the bud real quick. But like it's interesting when people see the person that was in that film and the person like the creator and writer of it and like director of it, like who's here in front of them, they're like, there's almost like a mind fuck for them because they're like, whoa. And for me as a black trans woman, because there's so many girls who will not show you their face like pre-transition, and they're well within their rights to not disclose that if they don't want to for that safety. And even like the boys too, like black trans people don't owe this like don't owe you vulnerability that like makes you feel good unless the black trans person wants to share it. Go ahead and share it. I just have to throw that in there. But yeah, Love Is Like came from also just wanting to make a good film, and the reception of it in Minnesota has made my heart sing. And now I'm trying to see what other festivals I want to submit it for, and what other places I should, because I don't know much about film. I don't know much about producing, but I want to like be into it more, and I want to like do it more because it's a really great medium, and I love like
Yeah.
the camera, and the camera loves me.
Yeah. What is the message of love like for folks? Like, what do you want folks to take away from Love Life when they
It's
come
like,
see it on August 3rd?
I want people to take the message away from it of like, because that love isn't really a definable thing. You can't really define love. Like, LOL. All these likes that I'm saying, hence the title. Love is like dot dot dot. That's literally how you say it. People are like, love is like, and I'm like, you mean love is like, it's intentional for you to say it like when people, when black people are like, she be like, but the message I want people to take away from that film is like, spend time with yourself more. Even the parts of you that are insecure, like, it's
Mm,
okay to be insecure. Like, it's okay to like not know how you want to express your love. But that doesn't also mean that like you should not hold it with care, whether it's for yourself or someone else. And I hope people also
mm,
get to like meet a part of me. That's a takeaway I want people to do. Like, I want people to meet a part of me because sometimes, like, I meet so many people every day in Minneapolis, or like people who are like, I love your Instagram, I like your vibe. And I'm like, I love y'all too. And also, I have social anxiety and I don't know how to share with new people and what to share. So sometimes, like, my art is just the best way of sharing how I feel or what I want to say or like what I want to do in this life. Like, even in little conversations, sometimes I don't know. I just want to be quiet, actually, and nonverbal. So, like, I hope people get to know a part of
mm.
me that I don't share often. Also on my Instagram, I write a lot. So please look on my Instagram at Bardist African. I just dropped an essay on like black trans hair and poetry as luxury in relation to that conversation with Audre Lorde. But yeah, I want people to know that like love can be messy, spend more time alone.
Awesome, awesome. So if you're in the Twin Cities area on August 31st, it's the Black August Queer Film Festival happening at the Pillsbury Creative Commons. And it really does love is like will be showing on that day. So check it out. It's the Pillsbury Creative Commons, the Black August Queer Film Festival. Please come support a very amazing, creative Black trans woman if you can. Ibim and I have, before we wrap up, I have some rapid fire fun questions for you. What are three songs you would recommend to someone who's listening to this podcast right now? Like, yeah, like you have to listen to these three songs right now.
She is My Drug by Amare,
Okay.
Losing You by Solange, and
Okay.
oh my gosh, what's something that Pursuit of Happiness by Kid Cudi.
Okay. Okay, cool. Love the diversity with the music. Shout out to that. What is a TV show you recommend to someone listening to this podcast right now?
Okay. Uh, I've been engaging in reality TV more and more. I love watching reality television. I would recommend Love Island Beyond the Villa or Love Island Season 6.
Okay. Shout out to Love Island. Shout out to Love Island. Okay. What is your favorite what's your favorite meal?
Meal right now. I've been loving a lot of breakfast food. I'm not gonna lie to you. So like scrambled eggs and
Okay.
plantain is a vibe.
Ooh. I want plantain and egg sauce.
Okay.
That's what I'm
That's
craving.
something enjoyable. Yes, I'll make sure to prepare a pan then next time I see you at yours then.
Okay, cool. And finally, what is your guilty pleasure?
Uh,
Guilty pleasure could be reality TV, it could be ice cream, it could be a myriad of things.
uh, my guilty pleasure. I'm fine.
You're
I'm
hilarious.
like, what is the most appropriate thing to say for the podcast? Because I'm also like, the first thing I was gonna say was like, ooh,
Ooh,
I almost, I almost said some a little rated R. My guilty pleasure right now is intimacy and black intimacy.
okay, cool.
Yeah,
So shout out to Black Intimacy.
seeing how that's written, how that's lived. And like also I've been loving seeing like black trans women with their black partner. So that's been just my guilty pleasure, like online, just like looking at the dolls, like with their like beautiful black partners and like just living. That's been my guilty pleasure, if I'm being honest. That's been my escapism. Cause with all these laws and things that we're even just talking about, like the asylum update, like and Big Beautiful Bill. Yeah.
Ibimina, this has been such a lovely conversation. But before you go, what is your hope for the next for Ibimina for like the foreseeable future? I know there's still so much that, you want to accomplish, but what does that look like in the next 10 years? Where do you want Ibimina to be and what do you want Ibimina to be doing?
I hope I do right by myself more. That's my big one. I hope I do right by myself more. I hope I'm prepared for where next time I
Hmm.
go, because if people think you're shocked by the things I do, honey, I'm shocked by what I wake up and do some days. like every day, like even transition. I was like, "Bitch, you really just woke up in transition?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I did." I'm always shocked. So like, I hope I'm more prepared to hold myself with care, and
Mm.
I hope I don't limit myself out of fear.
That's the word. Yeah. And I feel like that's all gonna happen from your lips to the God's ears. Very thankful that you chose to come on this podcast. I'm very thankful for that. Also very thankful that you got to share and be open.
I,
And I really love your work, and I just really hope that it continues to grow and be better, constantly cheering you on and rooting you on and supporting you through all of this. And I just want to appreciate y'all for tuning in, for listening from the very beginning. If you're still on here, shout out to you. I'm very grateful. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Listen on wherever you stream your podcast. Thank you so much. Till the next episode, Odejuma.